Hey everybody, Cloud Jacobs, Big Duck Energy. Got a real treat for you today. Had Dad in the shop, did a little interview earlier. He's talking about growing up in Stuttgart and going over to Chick Major's shop and Alvin Taylor's shop. And if you know my dad, you know he's a master bullshitter, but he's also a master storyteller. I've heard all kinds of stories about crazy duck hunts and him going to these guys' shops over the years. And I just figured it was time that we got it recorded so we could share with all of y'all. So enjoy. All right, so you grew up around here, around Stuttgart. Tell me a little bit about Chick Majors growing up.
Well, I used to go to his shop when I was a kid. I say a kid. I was still a kid then. Probably 17 years old, 16, 17. Him and Miss Sophie would be out there turning duck calls. I'd go to the little shop and behind her house, sit there and visit and this and that. And hell, I couldn't afford no duck call at the time, you know. And I got to talking to Chick because he was the one that taught me how to do the feed call and the quack and you kind of had to learn the hell call, put it together on your own. And he told me one time, I told him I wanted one of them duck calls. He told me, he said, you go get me some Bodoc. And he said, now I'll give you a call. I said, hell, I had a friend of mine that lived down around Tishner. He said they had a whole bunch of Bodoc. I said, hell, I went down there. Hell, we had an axe and we cut down some Bodoc trees. We had them in the bed of the truck. Boy, I was so proud. Boy, Bodoc's hard too. Man, it took us all day long. We was out chopping trees. I took it up there that next afternoon, Chick. He just died laughing. He said, I tell you what I'll do. He said, I'm going to lay that wood out here beside the shop, and if me and you both living 100 years from now, he said, I'll make you one out of that wood. He said, that's got to cure a long time. I said, oh, man. Well, a couple afternoons went by, and I was over at the shop, and he gave me a call. I guess he felt sorry for me. It's this right here, a laminate. Man, I was tickled to death. Because back then, the only ones that I knew made duck calls was P.S. Oates. P.S. Oates and Chick Majors. Who else made duck calls? I thought that was only two. And boy, I was proud of it too, let me tell you. And I'm proud to have it today, But, yeah, he used to work with about all kids, because there was quite a few kids coming over to his shop at the time. With him and Miss Sophie here, they just, entertain you, or you'd entertain them, I guess, But they just a little bitty shop in behind the house over on Meadow Lane, little old small house, But I got to know him pretty good, and glad I did.
How much did you pay for that call?
I didn't give nothing for it. He gave it to me.
Did you ever hunt it? It looks brand new.
No, yeah, I hunted a couple times. But, I was a kid and, hell, I couldn't afford shells a lot of times, And then, as you get a little bit older, you got other things on your mind, like them little girls and stuff. I should have been concentrating on ducks, But I put it up, and then I got married, or I moved, went to Louisiana and went to work, and then got married, come back here, and started getting back into a little bit of hunting. And that's whenever I found out about Alvin Taylor. And I knew him from many years ago, and started going to his shop over here at Clarendon, me and my wife. We'd pull up and she'd sit in the driveway in the truck. Well, I'd go back there, I'd stay back there an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes. She'd be sitting in the truck waiting on me. And so, hell, I couldn't afford none of his calls at the time either. I had a wife, and she bought me a call. She bought me a call for Christmas one year. And, well, let me see, in 1981. This one right here had Jenny Marfoos painted duck on it, because Jenny was a family friend, a friend of my mother-in-law's. They were big fishing buddies and stuff. And boy, I opened up the Christmas gift, and here was this duck call. And man, I was a stud then, Chief. Let me tell you. And you can tell, look around the band and stuff. Man, I used it. If I'd had any sense, I'd have put it up. It'd still look brand new again. But hell, I used this. This is my duck call. I started guiding the river bottoms, started taking people. I worked for White River Lodge down there as a guide. And I'm still going over to Alvin's shop and watching him, and talking to him because, we enjoyed each other's company. And I told him in there one day, I said, man, I need an acrylic call because everybody was talking about acrylic, not sticking, doing this, I said, man, I need an acrylic call. And he said, well, right here, he handed me one. I said, how much is that? I think it was $60 or $70 at the time. I looked at him, I said, hell, I can't afford that. He reached up under the counter and he got this one out. And it's got bubbles in it. You probably can't see them, but it's got bubbles in it because he was just learning how to turn acrylic at the time. And he blew it, but boy, it sounded good. And I blew it. And I told him, I said, that's a little hard to blow. He said, I'll fix it. He fixed it. He done the reed there, trimmed it a little bit, this and that. I blew it. I said, yeah. I said, well, what do you want for that call? He said, give me $20. I said, hell yeah. I went out to the truck, got $20 from my wife. Man, I come out with an acrylic duck call. I had two on my lanyard now. I had two tailor-mades. Had my acrylic and my wood. You talking about a stud. Man, I had it going on, and I blew them and blew them and blew them for years. I started collecting duck calls, and we had a son, and my son, he was kind of into duck calls and this and that, and he told me one day, he said, you need to retire them two calls. He said, them two calls right there are worth a little bit of money. I said, yeah. I said, hell, they made me money. I wasn't into collecting or anything like that. I was into surviving. And this is what was making me money. Man, I made some money with these two calls right here. Made some good tips and good payday, And yeah, so I put them up and come to find out they are worth a little bit of money. But like on this Jenny painted one here, I got 2 or 3, 4 of them that's painted. And it got different years and stuff on them. My wife was getting them for me for birthday or Christmas. And I told her one day, I said, there ain't no use in getting me no more tailor-mades. I said, how many tailor-mades can one man have? Boom, boy, I wish I'd known then, what I know now. Yeah, I could have kept on getting them because Jenny painted on them. Didn't charge them anything to paint them. It was just a friend deal, And now, I don't know, I got, what would you say, 30 tailor-mades, some straight barrels, some other ones, a nice collection of tailor-mades. I think I got about one and only Budweiser red checkered tailor-made. There's no telling what that's worth. But it's not for sale. I'm not going to sell any. I ain't never sold a duck call. I just like duck calls. I don't care what kind they are. I started making duck calls. My son got over into it, and I did too. We started making duck calls and selling them, checkering on them.
Now, I think that one's got a reed in it. You want to crank on it for us?
I don't want to embarrass myself. Hell, I'm an old man now,
Still sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, as long as it sounds good to the ducks. Of course, there ain't no duck gonna hear it no more anyhow, I don't think,